My only real experience with Wicked is watching Rachel Berry and Kurt Hummel duel it out by singing Defying Gravity in Glee, and also watching Wicked Part 1 in theaters. I'm really just trying to say that I have no scope as to what the source material for Wicked is like, but if there's one thing that I really enjoyed about the first movie, it was how developed the characters felt, specifically Elphaba and Glinda. They are the two main characters, and the driving factor of the movie was their relationship and the love they developed for each other. The movie's length really lended to this. Given that it was 3 hours, we had a lot of time to spend with them and understand where they began and where they ended up. Listening to Defying Gravity is an emotional roller coaster every single time because of how well the relationship is built up, and obviously the vocal masters that are Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande helps a lot too. But with Wicked Part 2, I felt like I was constantly getting whiplash. The story wanted me to care about more than just Elphaba and Glinda, and honestly, they failed. I still ended up crying listening to For Good, but there's just something about that song that feels kind of unfair and pulls at your heartstrings whether you want it to or not. But in the movie, there was constant switching between characters like Nessa, Fiyero, Bach, and others, when all I really cared about was Elphaba and Glinda. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but it's true. To be fair, that's mainly because we spent the most time with them in the first movie. In regards to Nessa and Bach, their relationship was set up in the first movie, but it was never expanded upon, and I didn't care enough to focus on it in the second movie. In fact, I spent most of Nessa's scenes asking her to get over it. But her death served as such a big turning point for Elphaba, Glinda, and Fiyero, but at the same time, it didn't feel completely deserved. It more so felt like something that had to happen to further the plot. And I know the Wicked Witch of the East originally dies in The Wizard of Oz, but I feel like getting there should have felt like a huge deal. Especially since this was a character that we knew since part 1 and who our main character held such love for. Now, don't get me wrong, it was set up in the movie pretty well, actually. From the crashing of Fiyero and Glinda's wedding, to Fiyero leaving with Elphaba, and Glinda being so hurt by both of them that she gave Madame Morrible the idea to use Elphaba's sister to lure her out. The storm being conjured up, and at this point, the audience, if they have seen the original Wizard of Oz, knows what's going to happen. But at the same time, the emotions I should have felt were simply not there. Plus, she was genuinely dislikable and way too possessive for me to care what happened to her. It was more like, well, there she goes. And I kind of moved on. When it comes to Fiyero, I actually did want to see more of him. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like the love triangle at all, and I genuinely think it actually got too much screen time, which I know is crazy to say considering I wanted to see more of Fiyero. And I'm honestly on the Gelfie train and believe that if that was focused on in a romantic light, we could have saved a lot of time from focusing on Fiyero. But Jonathan Bailey is extremely charismatic, and I actually wouldn't have minded if Fiyero was fleshed out more, especially since his character was important to both Elphaba and Glinda, and honestly caused such a big rift between them. So yeah, I would have liked to see more of Fiyero. This particular storyline, like most of the plot points of part 2, happened so fast. There's a wedding, it gets disrupted, Fiyero leaves with Elphie, they are together for the night, Elphaba is lured somewhere, Fiyero defends her, and he gets taken away, and now he's a scarecrow. And that's not me exaggerating, that's simply how it happened. It felt that fast to me. I mean, the first movie was almost 3 hours long, and I don't recall hearing complaints about it. Granted, if there was any complaints, I wasn't really paying attention to them. This movie could have definitely used a longer runtime, considering it was throwing so many different characters and storylines that we were supposed to care about, because there were a lot of characters that needed to be fleshed out more. Now, I mentioned Fiyero becoming the Scarecrow, so let's talk about the integration of the Wizard of Oz characters. Characters like the Scarecrow, Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion from the original movie are characters that we were introduced to in the first film, which I honestly thought was a pretty awesome take on it. It had the capability to add a whole nother layer to the story, but like most other things, unfortunately, it fell flat. And the main reason I feel this way is because we meet them and then we kind of just move on. We meet the Cowardly Lion first, who is the same lion that Elphaba saved from living a caged life in the first movie. He blames her for taking him away from his home, which was his cage, since that was all he ever knew as a baby, and that's pretty much that. He kind of turns the animals against her in the beginning of the movie, which causes a big problem for Elphaba, obviously. When it comes to Bach, he becomes the Tin Man after Nessa gives him a heart attack or something along those lines with a spell from the Grimoire, which she can't read. And when Elphaba tries to save him, it's not exactly the most ideal situation since now he's not even a human anymore. But all of this happens, and Nessa also becomes the Wicked Witch of the East at the same time, especially in regards to her reading the Grimoire and using spells and also just being extremely possessive and honestly not a good person throughout all of this. I already mentioned what happened to Fiyero, so I won't bring it up again. And if it seems like I'm going through any of these plot points quickly and not giving them any time to simmer, it's because that's exactly what the movie did. There really is nothing more to say about them. Only that they tried to do more with the Tin Man by really showing us his anger towards Elphaba for making him like that, but again, it meant nothing for the story. We know they still retain memories, so it would have been an intriguing layer to the Tin Man, Bach, and the Scarecrow, Fiyero, to interact with each other. But nope. I think I should talk positively for a minute. I do want to talk about Elphaba's turn and her endeavor to give people the Wicked Witch that they want, and how that's probably one of the better executed storylines in the movie, aside from Glinda's whole arc, which I think was the best overall, if I'm being honest. If not, these two are tied. Throughout the entire movie, Elphie has been trying to do the right thing, but she is rebuffed at every turn. When she believes that Glinda betrayed her and loses Fiyero all at the same time, it's the heel turn for her. At this point, she has lost her mission, her best friend, her lover, and her sister, and has no belongings to remember her sister by either. By the way, a little bit of a side note, but No Good Deed is easily one of the top 2 songs in the movie. But besides that, Elphaba sends the flying monkeys to kidnap Dorothy so she can get her sister's shoes back. In the original movie, Dorothy takes the Wicked Witch of the East's red shoes. In this case, they're not actually red. They were red at one point, but it's not the point. When Elphie and Glinda meet up in the tower, the flood of feelings that comes pouring out of them is unmatched, in my opinion. It's not that Elphie wants to be this wicked witch, but per her previous conversation with the Wizard of Oz, she understands that people will believe what they want no matter what. And for there to be a force of good, there must also be someone who is wicked to counteract that. I also thought the door scene was heartbreaking as well. I don't think I'll have footage of it up, but if you know, you know. And the witch death scene was also really well shot. I thought it was interesting to never actually see Dorothy because it was never about her. This is not her movie. But to see all the shadows working together in a scene where everyone knows what happened was really neat. I know I've been talking pretty harshly about the movie altogether, but in the end, I did enjoy it. I firmly believe that the first movie did such a good job in building up the relationships between Elphaba and Glinda that any scene with them in this movie would end up hitting like a truck. And well, the movie is about them, so it was bound to be at least decent because of that. Also, circling all the way back to Glinda in Munchkinland, which is the first scene in part 1, was just amazing because it gives you a whole new perspective of it, and it hit me with a new wave of emotions. The movie ended on a good note, but definitely hit a lot of rough patches along the way.